Hello everyone, I am Harshita. I'm a 16-year-old app developer and entrepreneur, and I come from Saharanpur. Today I'm here to share my journey about how I dropped out of school, learned to code, interned at Salesforce, co-founded a startup at MIT, and made an app that was acquired by Redwood City Ventures, a VC firm in Silicon Valley last week. I will also be sharing about one of my worst nightmares coming true and how I dealt with it. 3 years back, I was introduced to the world of technology and the wonders of building software by my computer science teacher at school. He would assign some really interesting design projects, like designing posters, designing imaginary apps and websites. I remember I even made a little animated video on deforestation for an international video contest. He then introduced me to Scratch. Can you pull the next slide? He then introduced me to Scratch and MIT App Inventor. Both tools for learning programming for kids, where I learned basic programming concepts. In no time, I was obsessed with coding. A few months later, I started to realize that I wanted to play more with programming languages. It started to dawn upon me that the formal education at my school wasn't really teaching me anything practical or interesting or useful. I was having so much more fun making apps and websites. During that time, I started reading essays by Paul Graham. And his essay, next slide, and his essay, A Student's Guide to Startups, sparked my interest in startups. I realized that being young meant that I had some advantages when starting up, and I really wanted to try my hands at them. I realized that I wanted more time to focus on my passion and build out some projects and see where they go. And that obviously means more time. So I thought of leaving school and sort of pursuing unschooling. Unschooling is an alternative to formal education, an education path that better equips a child to handle the real world. Unschooling means learning what one wants, when one wants, in the way one wants, for one's own reasons. Choice and control reside with the learner. Becoming an unschooler simply meant that I could choose to spend my time on whatever I wanted, and getting all that time to focus on coding was priceless. But at the same time, it was a very risky decision. Thank you. But at the same time, it was a very risky decision. It could have irreversible damage on my career. But with my friends and family support, I decided to take the leap of faith. And in hindsight, I can say, dropping out of school and pursuing my passion turned out to be one of the best unregrets that I have. After I left school, I had the entirety of my hands. So I started spending time learning web development and did some freelancer projects to get experience. Back then, I did not really know what I wanted to do in life, which, by the way, I still don't. But I think I have an idea of the kind of problems that I want to solve. More on that later. But anyway, 2 years ago, I saw this post on a Facebook group for homeschoolers about Salesforce starting a junior internship program. I checked it out. It looked pretty interesting. They were starting a program for 12 high schoolers and college students so that they can get experience early on. Kind of a new thing in India. So I applied for it, did some interviews, and got accepted. It was so exciting, and I was scared at the same time because I live very far from Bangalore, and at 15, I'd never taken a flight that long before, let alone stay in an unknown city for 1 month, all alone. It was very hard to convince my parents, but I pestered and they finally agreed. So another lesson that I learned that day that I want to share is that there are umpteen opportunities out there, no matter how old you are or where you come from. Interacting with social media the right way can help you a lot. In those 4 weeks at Salesforce, I got to work on demo engineering projects, learned in depth about SaaS models and cloud computing, and I also got to learn marketing and worked on some business presentation projects, learned marketing and so much more. And for the first time, I got to meet and interact and work with people who have been in the tech industry for decades. They were so friendly to noobs like myself. And that is why I absolutely love the culture at Salesforce. They were open-minded and willing to teach anything. And I formed some very long-lasting relationships. I will later mention how these relationships helped me. When I came back from Salesforce, I knew I wanted to start something of my own. Starting up felt like this bold, fascinating, and interesting activity to take on, and I've always been a fan of bold and fascinating things. But I did not know anyone to co-found with, barely had any product development skills, no network, no funding. Basically, I did not know where to start. So obviously, I went to the internet for an answer. So I did a little bit of research and learned about this program by MIT called MIT Launch, which was sort of like a startup incubator for high school entrepreneurs and hackers. I decided to apply for it. Again, did some interviews with a Launch staff member and got accepted. Again, it was very overwhelming. It was exciting, but this time I was overwhelmed. It felt like the gateway to a lot of opportunities opened up to me, and evidently, it did. So I started preparing for the trip to the US and for the program. So I went to MIT, attended the program, co-founded University, a social platform for connecting college students for group cooking sessions by creating through a free phone app where they can meet other people to schedule them. It was the first time I got to meet, talk, and work with so many other young, passionate hackers and entrepreneurs from around the world. I also got to meet and interact with some incredible people working at startups in Boston. And got to try my hands at iOS app development for the first time. At MIT, the program had classes on various aspects of starting up, doing market research, and building your product. So basically, starting a startup from nothing but an idea and a great team. A lot of the lessons that I learned at MIT have had a profound effect on me and in how I approach various aspects of starting up. And I had some incredible memories from there. I wanted to make the most out of the trip, so I decided to look for internships for after the program in the US. Did not know back then that I couldn't intern on a visitor visa, but in the process of researching on internships and cold messaging a lot of people on Quora, I got introduced to Charles Sips, a veteran entrepreneur whose family I stayed with in Texas for 2 weeks, who also introduced me to a family in Silicon Valley who agreed to host me for free for 4 to 5 months while I find an internship and do it. Silicon Valley is the place where I've always dreamt to be. It's like the hub for startups after all. So next up, I flew to California without an internship, but with lots of hope that I'll find one. And in the next few weeks, I got accepted as an intern at a VC firm in Palo Alto. I went there for a few days and worked there, but later on, they asked me to discontinue because they were too uncertain about the visa. Major bummer. But I still spent the rest of the 3 months learning, exploring, networking, meeting some of my role models, making friends, attending cool tech offices, and whatever I could do to absorb and learn as much as possible and make the most out of the cost of flying to the US and everything else. The cost of living in Silicon Valley, even though technically my rent was free during that time, were too high. And I had a limited stay visa, so I decided to come back to India. And when I did, I spent a few more months learning iOS app development. At that time, I just wanted to work on mobile apps. I saw the potential in the mobile app market and felt that it was relatively easier to code an app from just your bedroom. So, last year, I started researching on problems that I could solve with my newly acquired skills in iOS app development. I had just learned about cryptocurrencies in 2016, but never really seriously took on a project related to it. But in 2017, cryptocurrencies were all over the internet. Literally everyone was talking about them. So I felt there's probably a space in the market that I could fill with my iOS app design and development skills. And after some research, I found that people wanted a new price tracking and portfolio management app. Previous slide. They wanted a new price tracker or portfolio management app. There was a lot of competition in this space, but I had read some negative reviews about people complaining about horribly designed apps and the features that they wished existed in them. So I felt that, yes, there is a market need, and I am going to build an app for that. So this is where all the friends and the people that I had met came into the picture. I started messaging all of my friends. I wrote a script to message all of them, and asking that if they are interested or invested in cryptocurrencies and if they would be up for a 5-minute chat about them and the apps that they use for tracking prices. Some of them replied, and they told me the apps that they use and what they wish was better about them. And I came up with a huge features list for the new app. So it took me about a month to design it and another month to develop Crypto Price Tracker with the help of my awesome mentors and friends. So I released the app this year on 28 January. So on launch, I put together my story about building the app from scratch on Medium, and I published it under Free Code Camp, and it ended up getting a lot of attention in just 24 hours. Thank you. I posted on Reddit, where my post went viral. I launched the app on Product Hunt, where it ended up getting featured. Next morning, when I woke up, the app was already number 2 app in finance category in the App Store. It was mind-blowing to me. I could never imagine my app getting so many users in just 24 hours and so many downloads with literally zero marketing budget. And overwhelming all over again. It all went pretty smooth for a week, and downloads were increasing, and I was working hard for a version 1.1 update. But one evening, I saw this. The previous one. This is the first time I felt I faced the big bad world that people talk about. A few people on the internet were accusing me of plagiarism. I ignored the haters for a while because I knew the acquisitions were false. But in a few hours, I started getting messages like these. Trolls on the internet went to Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Quora, Product Hunt, Medium, pretty much everywhere, and made some extremely rude and vulgar remarks, some even personally. I could not process what was going on. Internet mobs were harassing and bullying me online based on those false acquisitions. And I feared it could escalate to something much worse. I did not know what I could do to stop any of this. So I asked my friends, and they suggested that I report the 2 people who wrote the original post to their respective employers with screenshots and links. So I did exactly that. I sent an email. I knew those 2 people, and I knew their employers from LinkedIn, and I sent their employers screenshots and links of their respective employees' online behavior. And in a few days, they took down the post, and one of the guys issued a public apology. was a win for me because I could fight against the trolls. It took some time to recover from the anxiety that the online harassment had caused, but I did not let it stop me from improving my app. In a few days, the Daily Beast contacted me and interviewed me for a story. And when they published it, it invited a lot of positive feedback from women in tech and the cryptocurrency community. Dozens of people on the internet messaged me and told me how happy they are that I made an app that they love and that I fought the internet trolls gracefully. That day, I felt so happy being a part of this community of empathetic people that care and support. A few days later, my app got covered by your story. Then Times of India also interviewed, and next slide. And I was so proud to see myself in the national newspaper. And then interviews by dozens of news and media outlets followed. It went on for a few weeks. Some folks at Apple noticed my app and invited me to a tech evangelist program in Bangalore, where I got a ton of feedback on my app and more. I started getting some acquisition offers in the last month, and a few days ago, I finalized a deal with Redwood City Ventures, a VC firm in Silicon Valley that acquired my app. It was a fun ride from the day I started with just an idea to the day I signed the acquisition deal. And from my story, I wanted to take 3 key takeaways. 1, that you can too design your own path in life. You don't always have to follow the conventional wisdom, and risks like dropping out of school can be well worth down the line. 2, talk to your users. Understanding the market needs and what people want can help you build meaningful products. If you're just coding because you want to code and you don't care about what people want, you're not going to be able to sell your products and succeed at your startup. 3, when you do great, ambitious things in life, it will make some waves. Some good, some bad. Learn to ignore the bad ones and keep doing the wonderful things. Good people will notice you and help you. I had complete strangers accept me in their house when I was in the US, and people helped me in building my app and marketing it. What motivates me every day is the fact that I can build something meaningful that solves people's problems. But recently, I realized how much sharing my story has helped people to do something of their own. I wake up every day with emails and messages from young entrepreneurs and programmers telling me how much I inspired them and sharing details about their project to get my feedback. And that feeling of knowing that I can create an impact in people's lives is just plain wonderful. In his TED Talk, Dan Dennett said, "The secret to happiness is find something more important than you are and dedicate your life to it." And what truly makes me happy is that I can build something meaningful and share my story that encourages others to do the same. I cannot wait to see the wonderful things you do in this world. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Harshita.